You have to believe in God's calling for their life, and they die otherwise. If they're not paid in full, the $1.4 million, the $80,000 per job, the $1 million a year when they earn that. It's something where you'd have to pay, promote, support. Know that since 2007, no one would have a small business except for them surviving through the most successful 20-year top percentage Christian Infinity artists. They can't be falsely accused because they would die if they didn't do God's will. But it's also fully knowing that that's what they are, and it's because of their calling, sticking to an agency rate, that they could survive all around the world. 20, 10, and 5. The last 10 because of the first 10. But it killed them when they weren't paid the agency rate for a lifelong lowest amount, $2,500 for an $80,000 job the same day, according to federal law. But it's from the top percentage, and it actually killed them to be lied about when they didn't party promote for the party promoting prostitution slave trade clients, and they rejected slave trade. So they're the only ones who booked anti-slave trade campaigns in the malls, in the magazine stands or stores for a 7-year period. And then they booked the one spot on TV, which is a whole separate thing, to be the most amount of an on-camera supermodel talent with an agency rate. And it's unheard of to have booked their same campaigns once a year against a roster, and then their same magazines against a roster, but they wouldn't be able to book it for any 14-year-old. It's just when they have that full-time resume, that first 7 years, to help people to book one Fashion Week job a year. And it was the runway division just for 1 year. So that's why they could book hair jobs since 2007. So 20-year-olds were homeless, and 14-year-olds wouldn't be able to book an agency rate campaign. And it was a campaign and a commercial for less than an agency rate for $200 for party promoting and prostitution with a roster across the board, 2007. So that's what caused for all these Victoria's Secret models to sleep with club owners and have all these party promoting reels for the past 14 years and become slave trade brands. But the cover of Vogue, GQ, Sports Illustrated, Having Your Own Brand, and Victoria's Secret were referral-based nudes to be gang raped, to have people gang raped and be a slave trade brand. And they rejected those jobs. And so it was something where they wouldn't book commercials otherwise, and they wouldn't have an agency rate, and they could have the $2,500, being someone who's 21, 2007, but a 14-year-old wouldn't. And 20-year-olds were made homeless, and LGBT rights preyed upon them homeless. And so it's something that was a brothel for minimum wage without the top percentage. And so they made it so that people could have the $2,500 all around the world when people were human trafficked for live-in assistant jobs and cleaning lady jobs, and they're not compared to any kind of minimum wage worker when they're the top percentage. And it's that way their whole life. They'd have to have the $80,000 according to federal law, but the $1.4 million, the $250,000, the $1 million a year, when they're the only ones who shot the anti-slave trade campaigns. And that's how they were booked out of 140,000 people for the agency rate school blogging, separate from the prostitution, but it's really nudes for being raped for music videos for A-list. So they were meant to do it without it being corrupt, separate from this brothel for minimum wage otherwise, that happened for 30 years. So they've never been paid by any stable job, but they're the referral for any business. They survived all over the world because of an agency rate.